The phone felt heavy, slick with the sweat I hadn't realized was gathering on my palm. It was my uncle's lawyer, a voice like dry paper and old money, delivering the verdict. $100 million. The entire estate. Mine. The number was a quiet absurdity, a detonation that left no sound. I thanked him, hung up, and walked to the window, watching the rain blur the streetlights. I was rich. Instantly, undeniably. And in that same second, an idea, cold and sharp, began to form, overriding the shock, overriding the relief. I wasn't going to tell a soul, not yet. I had always suspected their love had a price, and now I finally had the means to test the market, to know their exact valuation of me when I had nothing to offer. This money wasn't a windfall, it was a psychological tool, a surgical instrument for carving away the pretense. The experiment began the next day. I let my rent lapse, I sold my good watch, I crafted the perfect performance of desperation. My first call was to my mother. "Mom, I'm completely underwater," I forced the tremble into my voice. "I might be evicted by the end of the week. I need a loan, anything." Her response was a clipped sigh, a sound of profound inconvenience. "Darling, I'm just too busy with the book club this week," she chirped, the word busy a polished shield against the messy truth of my manufactured crisis. Her compassion was a finite resource, apparently reserved for people who didn't threaten her comfort. I didn't argue, I just listened to the silence expand after I hung up. A silent check mark went into the cold ledger of my mind. Next, my older brother. He picked up on the third ring, already laughing at some shared joke with someone else. I laid out the same bare script, the same fabricated ruin. He listened, and then, the sound I knew was coming, a sneering, wet laugh. "Oh, stop it, man. That's vintage you. Get a job, idiot. Try working for a change." The words weren't a rejection. They were a confirmation. My existence was a punchline to him. I was the cautionary tale he used to polish his own self-regard. I ended the call mid-chuckle, my own breath coming out slow, even, and entirely devoid of heat. The feeling wasn't anger, it was perfect clarity. They had shown their hands. The final call was the hardest, the most uncertain variable, my cousin, Elias. We weren't close. He was a distant figure, a face at Christmas dinners. I kept the call short, the tone flat. "I'm stranded. No food, no gas. Just trying to figure out where to sleep." I gave him a non-committal address. No plea, no sob story. Just the facts. 3 hours later, a battered sedan pulled up to the curb. He got out, not with judgment, but with 2 heavy plastic bags. "Groceries." "Sorry it took so long," he muttered, pushing the bags into my arms. "Didn't have much cash, but figured food was a start." He barely knew me. He owed me nothing. Yet he drove 6 hours, round trip, for a man he barely knew. I watched him drive away before I moved. The groceries were still warm. The contrast was stark, devastating. My mother, my brother, family forged by blood, had offered air and contempt. Elias, an afterthought, had offered survival. I walked back into my empty apartment, the bags heavy in my hands. The game was over. I had all the data I needed. The will was ironclad. The money was mine. I didn't need their help, but I had needed to know the shape of their souls. They failed the test. Elias passed. I hired a team the following week, lawyers, financial advisors, a single highly specialized real estate agent. The plan was executed with the same cold precision as my initial calls. My mother received a short letter from my attorney stating her emergency request for a small overdue loan was being declined. My brother received a legal notification that his small, desperate attempt to secure financing for a failing business was a risk the firm would not take. Neither received an explanation. They never would. Elias received a letter and an invitation. He met me at the office of my new financial trust. I didn't shake his hand. I just pointed to the deeds and the paperwork spread on the table. The house. The one he and his wife had always dreamed of owning, in full. A trust fund for his children's education. I looked him in the eye, the coldness finally cracking into something like respect. "You invested in me when I was worthless," I told him, my voice low and final. "You were the only one. I didn't ask for a thank you. I didn't need one." He looked at the documents, then at me, silent. It wasn't pity I felt. It was a calculated form of justice. I never saw my mother or brother again. I walked away from the wreckage of my old life, leaving them to wonder, to speculate, to suffer the slow burn of their own greed. I had the money, but more importantly, I had the truth. And that was the only inheritance that mattered.